in the design phase here. The plan is I'm going to change this station out to a loading dock, but that's okay. There's the engine house, and I think if we put the coaling tower there and the water tower there, it's not how it would really go, but it adds interest. We've got another facility here to guide trains. Small building, small building. This building is larger. It'll have to be removable because it's so close to the edge, but these guys can all be fixed down. Now, that blue is going to be a mountain, and this over here is going to be a mountain. Wondering what to do in that area. I just put a couple of buildings for a town. I could build a town in there. That's the first option. And those are a couple of woodland scenics from the town and country building. I could just use those, buy another town and country set. There's enough room to do a full town in there. That'd be one option. Another option is to put greenery and trees, maybe a pond, maybe not, but greenery and trees through there. Another option for back there is to make it more of an urban setting like that. Get a few more houses and put them in there. If I got like even a couple more, that would be enough. I could, put a road along there or whatever else I wanted. That's just one that I made up to do. But I could certainly do a few more in there, more foliage. And, the train tracks running by in the background there. I'd want to leave that area open because I plan to have the trains visible as they go through there. And I'm going to have this coming down and then a portal of some sort in there and rolling stuff over there. But the real thing is, which one do I use back there? I think I like something like that or the buildings in a town, one of the two. Need to think about that a bit more anyway. Alright, time for some experimentation. I have here some LEDs from this box of a whole bunch of double roll for like 20 bucks. And they come in a roll like this. I've just stripped off 3. They say that you should keep them in 3s. This is a 12 volt power supply coming in here. And there's a resistor and 3 LEDs. So what I'm wondering is, what's the resistor on this? And what's the voltage going to each of these lights? To answer that question, we'll get our multimeter out. And grab some probes and figure this out. Because I want to separate this out so that I can run one LED. As you can see, all 3 are pretty darn bright. So let's see, voltage, DC. Well, let's go to 2 volts. First of all, make sure we can pick up the 12. And in order to do that, I need to expose enough of the plug to be able to touch it. A little bit more, eh? Okay, well. Yep, 12.17 volts going through there. So I know how much is going through. Now, to make this easier, so I can see what I'm doing here, I'm going to tape down this guy try and figure out what this resistor is. Appears to be 180K. Sorry, 180 ohms. So it's not much. Yeah, I don't know if I can pick up on the trace here or not. No, that's protected on that side. I'm going to grab just a regular one of these off the spool here. What I found after all of this playing around is these guys are indeed in series. So if we look at this here that I've been using for testing, there's 3 LEDs on there. I look here, there's actually 6 on this string, and it's interesting. It's certainly not wired the way I might have thought it would be, but let's go through this. So 12 volts DC coming in, plus minus. There's this trace goes all the way across the strip. The negative one goes all the way across. And the way this works is the first LED on the negative side comes in, comes out the top on the positive, goes into a 180 ohm resistor, through the resistor, through the negative on the next LED, out the positive, through the positive, up the negative on the third LED, and then connects into the positive trace going through here. So it requires 3 of the LEDs. They're 3mm LEDs. I don't know what the specification is. Let me grab the box here and see if it says. It says wattage 18 watts per unit. LED type is a 2835. So it's a 2835. Has no mercury. I did make a note. I did some testing with a variable, well, a potentiometer, variable resistor, and to drop the voltage of this 12 volt down to the 3 volts that each of these is picking up, I'd need a 240,000 ohm resistor. So that's 240K, whereas this one's 180 ohms. I double checked the voltage at each of these sites, and the voltage at each, I didn't check that one, at each of these LEDs is right at 3 volts. So the 180 ohms, putting the 3 of them in series with this particular LED, it's pretty bright at that, so you may want to put another resistor in here. But if I want to drop and just cut out one of these and use them, I'd have to get a 240K ohm resistor. So I'm going to go online and see if I can find a 240 to 250K ohm resistor. They should be pretty cheap. Get some SMD ones and get them in, and then I can try them with a single light to see, because some of these buildings are so small that putting 3 LEDs, not only is it overkill, but there's not room for 3 of them. Some of them I may want to mount in the ground as well. Anyway, that's how this thing works. If you were ever wondering about getting an LED strip where they're in groups of 3 and just clipping one off, it's not as easy as you may think. Well, one of the things about doing stuff after ballasting is all of a sudden I want to put something in there and I got ballast, and the only way to get rid of ballast is then to carve it out, and that requires carving it out. What I'm doing here is I'm taking an X-Acto knife and I'm jabbing it in
to the ballast. So I'll be able to put this guy in here. Already cut out a concrete base for it. Well, make sure I don't go off too much. The good news is this line is too crooked. I tried using a ruler, but it's too tough to do. This is just a little tough to go in. Yeah, once I get to that, I gotta pull all this up. And that means undercutting in here and using tools to pull it up, and I end up with a bit of foam there as well, but that's the way it goes. Try and do it without removing part of my finger. So, after some surgery, looks like that. And time for a little more surgery to get rid of some high spots here. Now our piece of concrete goes in like that. Then the engine or the freight office goes on like that. And that should be just enough room for a car to... You'll have to move it out just a little there. Yeah, that works. Got the little puddle jumper there, got the concrete base on there. This guy needs weathering still, and I'm not gluing anything in until I have lights figured out. I want one LED in here, 3 across here, and I have to do wiring and stuff underneath. The rest of this is going to be in here. I'm going to figure this all out, but I'm thinking an elevated parking lot that comes along here. You can kind of see I've got it in there. And I'm going to use Smooth It for this. Just put tape along here and run it up to there, and then create a parking lot that goes up to that guy. Roadway, I'm going to measure how wide I want it. I've got some material on order to do road with, some black foam. Assuming that comes, we'll do black foam up here. I'll have to cut some out of there and some out of there for black foam and some out of there. And then this roadway, as part of the build, I'm trying to figure out lightings, and I have these 3 LED strips, quite bright. They run directly off of 12 volts. This here goes over to a wall wart over there. So that's the 12 volt power supply coming in.
Then the 12 volt goes into a buck converter that I have dialed down to 3.045 volts. And that in turn feeds a single LED. So we have all 4 LEDs looking like that. This LED is from a 3-strip. I desoldered it. There's what it came off of. So that's been desoldered, and a little magnet wire soldered on, hooked up to bigger wires for a connection. And what that looks like standalone is this guy here. Trying to get in focus. There you can see the little chip on there. You can see the wire. And the goal for that, for the single LED, I'm going to somehow put it in this building attached to the roof inside. So I've got to cut a hole on the base and stick that up and have that wiring come down. And then figure out how to connect that to the base and underneath and all that. But underneath, I'm going to want an on-off switch. So I have those. And a 1K potentiometer that will allow me to decrease the intensity of that if I don't like it that bright. That's what I'm working on now. Here's something one of the members mentioned to me that might work well. What I've done here is I've put cork on the outside of my concrete base in both cases. And that's because I thought, well, I don't know whether I want these removable or not. And so with a concrete base like that, what that means is I can place the building and it just fits into the base, like boink. I got a little work there to do, but just now it's in there. It fits nice and snug. I may want to do a little more work and carving some stuff there, but it's easy enough to fit in. And the next thing will be I'll have to go and, oh, and here's this little guy. He just fits in like that. I'll have to make sure it fits right for so that cars can get by. And then all I have to do is drill a nice big hole in there to get the wiring through. And then it'll come out. Yeah, oh, that one's going to be tough. That goes right down through a large beam in the bottom. So we'll have to start the drill and then go on an angle like that in order to get it through. But that's okay. This one's all bare underneath there. And these guys will just be able to go up. A little work to fine-tune where this ramp is, but looking good. Oh, and notice the side of the building here. I sprayed in here with isopropyl alcohol, which meant it kind of did some weird stuff there. I don't know if I like that or not.